Oh shit! I didn't think of a podcast opening. Remember, I
You had
said
a
I
whole
I know,
hour to
and
think
I
about.
literally said last time we did this that I was going to think of a new podcast every single episode to open with. But whatever. Anyways, hello. I'm here with the usual Alpha Divine, and this time Moze. Would you like to say hello,
Hello.
Moze? Hello.
I would like to say hello.
Nice.
Hi.
So Moze makes some pretty banger videos and streams, in my opinion, my humble opinion. I sent Alpha. I sent you one of them. Did you watch it?
No, sorry. No time.
That's fair.
Anyways, we are here to talk about the Monster Hunter Wilds beta. Um, so I didn't have a whole lot of time to experience it because I had to work a big part of the weekend. So I picked it up Friday when it went live for PC. We all played it on PC, right?
Yeah.
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 Um, I picked it up Friday, and I think I probably played it like 3-4 hours the night it came out, and then eventually I collapsed and had to go to bed. And then the next day I got to play. Oh shit! I just remembered that my heater's on. Hold on, I gotta turn it off. Alpha, talk about something.
What? No. It's okay. We have awkward silence now.
That's banger. That's what you want on a podcast.
So, out of curiosity, how much did you play the open beta then, Moze?
I believe Steam logged my total playtime as 25 hours.
Oh, dang. Hold on.
Yeah.
Where am I at? And pull it up here real quick. I think I started playing
I'm back.
Hello.
Friday. Hang on. No, I forgot I removed it from my library,
Yeah.
so I'll never know.
Yeah.
I
But
refused
yeah, I had
to delete that.
25.
For hours. Oh dude, I wish I had 25 hours. I had like let me think. I think it was like 7.5 or something. I wish I had more, but I don't know. I loved the time I had.
Yeah, I logged on as soon as it went live
Yeah,
for PC. I considered buying PS Plus just to play on the PS5. I have a PS5. I was like, I could do it. It's only like $10 or something. I could do it, but I didn't do that, so
You
I
held
waited until
strong.
PC.
I built a PC, right? I went with Naga, a friend of mine, to put together this PC. I have a 70 or not a 70, 7800 XT, and for like the first time ever for this game. And then a couple days ago, like a day before the beta went live, my cousin was like, "Yo, dude, I got a PS5 Slim. Do you want my old PS5?" So
Oh,
I built this whole thing for nothing. I mean, I'm not complaining. 'Cause
Wow.
it rules, and I would much rather play it on PC. But it was just really fucking funny to me that like he just gave me a PS5 for fucking free after I had already spent like $900 on a completely new PC. Anyways, um, yeah, so as I was saying, I played it like probably 3 hours the night it came out, probably four or so the day or the next day, and then I had to go to work, and I was gone for the entire weekend for work stuff, and I got back about 3 hours before it went offline, and I played it for all 3 of those hours. So basically, every moment that I was at my PC during the beta, I was playing it, but I still only managed to get 7.5 hours. So you had 25 hours, Moze?
yeah. I
Yeah.
was on there.
And I'll never know how many hours I had. Christ.
Yeah, you and Adam were playing
Lost
it
to
a
the
lot
void.
though.
Yeah, no. We did nothing but Raid Owl for like I feel like at least 24 hours. It was nothing but
I killed
Raid
doing
out,
Raid
my
Owl
beloved.
without armor on. Um Good times.
You did it. You did it naked.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. I killed one of them. I wanted to do it solo, but I completely forgot that even if you don't fire
The flare.
yeah, if you don't fire a flare, you can still get other players in in your quest if you don't set it to one player. So I ended up doing it on accident, which was fine by me. I didn't kick the guy out or anything, and I was like, whatever. It was fun though. I loved it. Dude, Kunafa Village, that shit.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, dude, I was nutting the entire time. I was like it was slow walk
Well, I don't know
mode
about
and
that.
everything. It was like I walked in, I had to like slow down and just soak in the vibes, and it was the first time for me that a village kind of felt like it had the same or a similar impact as something like a Jumbo Village or Kokoto Village.
Yeah. That's what I thought too.
Yeah, I didn't realize it had seasonal themes until
Mm-hmm.
after the beta because I didn't spend enough time there. I mean, I heard the other themes, I just didn't make the connection in my mind that it was like, oh wait, this is different music. But when I first went in there, it was the fallow and dude, that's easily my favorite song in the whole beta was the fallow daytime in Kunafa Village. Alpha, did you fuck around with any of the villages?
I
Or did
mean,
you mostly just
I,
combat.
I hunted like no tomorrow. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah.
There was a few uh there's a few non-quest related things that I did. And I did visit the village at the very least and talk to all the NPCs, but that was only because I was looking for food ingredients. Um, so kind of have the spectrum of players which play the beta.
Was there more food than just that one guy who gives you the cheese?
I think
As
that's.
Or was that it?
as far as I'm aware, it's just the one guy.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay,
I
yeah.
think that's the only meal ingredient item that you don't have access to at the beginning, and I think the only reason it is there is to kind of show you that like, it's a consumable,
Do
and
you
that you
know?
actually have to find them because he gives you like 30 of them, and maybe he
Yeah.
does that in the original game, but I would be very surprised if he gives you like
Yeah, I was just
30
about to say, do you
cheese.
know if that's renewable? Because I started running out of food because I used too much of it while fighting Raidao.
In the beta, I don't know. I'm assuming in the actual game there'll be like maybe like once a year, so like every time the season cycle rolls around 3 times, or something. Well,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah, it'll
also
be
hard
interesting to see
though.
how
But
that
it's
works.
also hard though because, and I wanted to bring this up because Moze, in your video, I saw you talk about how you had to wait to fight Raid out. I don't think that's the case because the season cycle is instanced. It's not. It's not
Well,
server side.
that and there's always an optional quest.
Yeah, yeah, and you
Well,
can post a
no,
quest whenever.
no. I mean, maybe this was just me, but for me, when I checked the quest list, like your personal quest list, Ray Dow was not there until I actually fought him and killed him the first time.
Oh, the
Oh,
first time.
Yeah.
interesting.
After
That's
that,
a
then you could post the quest. But I like the only way that I could fight Ray Dow was if we waited until he actually spawned in the map, and then we could fight him.
I see.
Yeah, I'm not sure I was paying attention to the very first quest list, but every instance after fighting the first one,
I see.
the optional was
Okay.
available.
Interesting.
Yeah. Because I mean, for me and my friends, we suck at the game, so we lost to Ray Dow like 3 times.
Well, that's
So
fair.
it took us like several hours until we were able to actually fight him and kill him. Because he like we would lose to him, and then he would despawn, and then we'd have to wait for him to spawn again.
So that's
I see.
interesting that it had to be a kill then if it was the
Yeah.
unlock condition.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if that's the way it's going to work in the full game. I don't know if that was just like a beta thing or what. But I
Right.
mean,
It's really hard
for
tell.
us, we were hyped. We were like, okay, that seems great.
You saw that you could create quests from the map though, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I did a multi-monster
I wonder-
quest. That was kind of cool.
I wonder if that's also locked then behind the first kill.
Maybe.
Probably
Or if
not
it's
though,
just the optionals.
because it's like because the optional quest. And by the way, I hope because in Japanese, I mean, I'm assuming it's the same as World. If it is, I didn't play the beta in Japanese at all. But if it is, they're called free quests in Japanese, which I think makes a little more sense than optional quests in this context. So I hope they change the English name because for me it's a little confusing. Like I wouldn't think to go to the optional quests to go to the quest tab that like lets you do quests that aren't on your map, so to speak. But anyways, besides the point. Um, I completely forgot what I was going to say.
Well, I was going to say that I think that the reason that they localized it as optional is
Oh yeah,
because World had switched it between
right.
assigned
Yeah,
and then
yeah,
like
yeah.
unassigned quests.
And I think it makes sense in World, and that's kind of what I was going to say is that in English, like it makes a little more sense if it's free quests because it's like, oh, these are the quests that you can do regardless of what time it is. Um, but optional quests doesn't really have that. Like it implies that that it's contrasted to, you know, quests that aren't optional, but the ones that are on your map are still equally as optional. There's a few things that are definitely, at least in the beta, were very convoluted in ways that I hope they managed to iron out a little more, or just feel ironed out a little more in the original game. Like the multiplayer system, like with link parties and environmental links, and like being in a lobby with
Yeah.
100 people, but you can only see 16. Like it makes sense
Honestly,
when you think about it, but it's just the way it was implemented is like so. It feels like it needs a little to be a little more intuitive, I guess.
honestly, I
I
think the whole UI is just kind of a mess. Not to say that it doesn't work well when you understand it, but like from a new player's perspective, if you looked
yeah.
at the so just sorting your items
Yeah,
alone
yeah,
is a
yeah. I see what you
nightmare and a
mean, though.
half.
Yeah,
Um,
like the
and
completely new item
World
pouch
had
menu.
had this too, where it had like a million different options that would make your life more convenient if you knew to enable them, but you never really are told like, hey, this is what this does. Um, so it'll be interesting to see how they structure the tutorials, at least in the game itself, when it comes to regards to like helping the player understand the whole heads up display. It's a mess.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
on menus, I was kind of surprised that there were actually things that seemed to have been missing. Like, maybe I'm crazy, but there was no restock option from the
No, no, it was
box,
there.
right?
It was there.
Was it? I
Yeah.
didn't see it.
I
I
don't
checked.
I don't remember what bunda was, but it was 100% there because I used it.
I think it might have also been under sets too. Um,
I never
but
looked
yeah,
at item sets.
there was a restock items, but there was it was only the items that you had currently
Yeah, same as World
up
and
in your
Mirage.
tab.
Anything
Yeah.
Okay.
that's in your pouch that was not a full stack, it automatically 100%
Yeah.
like fills the stack. That's what
I
I'm
guess I
talking
just didn't
about by
see it. I
restock.
was trying to find the button prompt and I didn't even see it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I know. I think it was like Y on an Xbox controller. I did it with
Uh,
I did it with Xbox controller originally, and then when my my free PS5 came in, I started using a DualShock on PC, and holy shit, am I very happy. They actually featured all of the DualSense features that I said DualShock before, but DualSense features that are on PS5 on PC, like the gyro works, the adaptive triggers, the haptics, and I'm very happy because I was
Yeah, I was just about to say
expecting
the
none of that.
vibration on PS5 was kind
mm.
of insane.
Yeah, it's so good. I like the haptics. I they so far the only time I noticed the adaptive triggers was
The map.
yeah, it was on the map, and well, it's certainly made it easier uh, to zoom in really fast and out.
Yeah, I had a hard time zooming small amounts, I'm not gonna lie.
But yeah, no, Moze, I thought your video, and I'll try to remember at least to put a link to your video in the description of this. But I thought your video summarized my take on Wilds pretty accurately. Um, I think the way I was describing it to Shinkai the other day is that I don't think Wilds, from a more strict like genre perspective, is the same type of game as like PlayStation 2 Monster Hunter, strictly because it clearly has no interest in well, first of all, like the combat style of old Monster Hunter. Like the combat, I like the combat in Wilds, but it feels, obviously a lot more like World than
Yeah.
like anything else, and that's fine. But the it also doesn't really have any interest in resource management, which for me is the defining feature of PS2 Monster Hunter and what I would call like the original subgenre of Monster Hunter. But in terms of everything else, like in terms of the like feeling, I guess, which is meaningless and subjective as that is, it certainly does seem like it's trying to kind of create the same atmosphere, I guess, that
Yeah.
Monster Hunter Dose and some of the other really old Monster Hunter games are doing. Um, Something, and this is something Jika pointed out to me that I hadn't noticed while playing, but I mean, I subconsciously noticed it, but I didn't really think about it, is the way that the grappling hook that you get for gathering allows them to kind of put a lot of gathering spots in like harder to reach places to
Yeah.
just make it a little more engaging. It does help a lot. It was kind of crazy how much more engaged I was in trying to find items when I actually have to like look up, and like look in places I wouldn't have thought to look. And obviously once they're on your camera, because the game has to like splatter them with Nickelodeon slime, they're not that hard to like get, but you still have to actually kind of look a little bit harder because they can be in places you wouldn't have expected, like, in a crack or I don't know, above you or something like that.
I do appreciate that the scout flies are at least less obtrusive than in World, at least to some
Yeah, they don't
extent.
snap your neck every single time they want you to look
Yeah.
somewhere.
They're also not as like giant. They're not.
Yeah.
There's no like giant clouds
Yeah,
of them.
the path is less intrusive, like to the monster, but
Yeah.
I feel like they highlight more things. They highlight things brighter. I don't know. It's probably my least favorite part of the beta was the scout flies. Like it's my number
Yeah. I
one
mean,
feature is wanting to turn them off.
yeah. I modded them out of World.
Yeah. Yeah, and I'll probably do the same with Wilds. I like to try to not use mods too much just because not because I'm against mods, I don't know,
Yeah.
prefer playing it, the way it was designed, but that's definitely one of the things that I won't have any qualms modding out.
But yeah, I do at least appreciate that it felt like they were toned down a bit from World in Wilds.
Yeah.
Felt like they had at least taken some amount of feedback on that.
hmm Um so there was the wound system. I kind of love the wound system. I also really love focus mode, which I didn't expect to like. I kind of
Yeah.
like the way it was not marketed, but just like I feel like I understood what it was perfectly fine before going into it, but it I was genuinely surprised at how much it made me enjoy the combat more, I think. Alpha, what did
My
you or Moze?
impression of oh my bad.
No, go ahead.
My impression of the focus mode and like the wounds and stuff when they first showed it off was like not very good because I had just come off of like Rise and I was like, oh, this is just going to be the same thing as like the anomaly quests with the giant red glowing
Yeah,
spots and
yeah.
you're just, I was like this, and I hate those. I hate those so much and I'm like, oh, this is just going to be terrible. This is going to be a whole game of that now. I'm like, oh Jesus. But then I got into the game and I'm like, okay, you know what? This is actually pretty good. These are actually pretty fun.
Yeah.
I the only thing like this is super minor like nitpick, but I do wish that you could turn off the red glowing aspect of it because you can see the wounds just fine. Like they're visually there.
Right.
I don't really want to see like the big red glowing spot. I wish you could just like turn that off, but like that's not like a big deal.
hmm What did you think
Yeah, I
of it,
mean,
But
Moze?
there's certain parts uh of the game that are designed very specifically to get players who wouldn't otherwise catch certain subtle cues like that, though.
yeah.
The health bar obviously glowing when a monster is about to hit you
Mm-hmm.
in different ways.
I love that health bar.
I like it
The
too. I'm
flashing
glad you like it
in
because most people
multiplayer
don't.
in particular when a monster's targeting you, because normally when you're in a multiplayer hunt and like let's say Rajang beams in any game really, um, and you don't know who he's aiming at, I guess now you do have like an extra layer of, hey, it's aiming for you,
No, no, you do
or
not.
you're in the path of it.
It doesn't matter who it's aiming at.
Well, I think it does that whenever, like, it does the pulse whenever you're about to get hit by something that would kill you. That's really all I ever noticed.
Yeah, it's
Okay,
just
well,
like
maybe it's because I'm always in naked that I noticed
yeah.
it. So literally everything could kill me. But yeah, there were times where it wouldn't flash when it was targeting somebody else and I wasn't in the
Yeah,
radius
there's
of the
I'm
attack.
not sure what it is exactly, but like
Yeah.
playing with my friends, it seemed that like it didn't there were times where you could be just kind of like in the vicinity of the attack, not necessarily going to be hit by it, and you'll still get like the signal,
Yeah.
which I think is pretty cool. I think that's pretty cool because it's just like, oh, your hunter is just reacting to what the monster is
Yeah, it's
doing.
like spider sense.
Yeah.
I like it. I like it a lot. I like the wiggly health bar. And I know that I feel like this is kind of controversial, especially among people like older Monster Hunter, because they feel like it takes away too much of the like need to watch the monster. But I disagree. I um I like the wiggly health bar too because I think it's a good antidote to not wanting to extend the health bar all the way across the screen, which they seem like they clearly don't aren't interested in doing anymore, probably because of 16 by 9 and just like think it might be a bit overboard, but um I think it's a really good counter to that because it makes it clear in the corner of your eye, when you're at low health and when you're not. I really liked some of the UI like sound effects. Like they're not old Monster Hunter, but they feel very chunky, which I feel like World didn't sometimes. Um, a lot of them are just straight from World, like the gathering sound from World is back, things like that. But overall, I'm like, dude, I'm so hyped for this game. I kind of said this a little bit the last episode of this, but it's like sometimes I feel like it's like a scam, and I'm like, there's no way that this game is this good, and so I'm like worried it's gonna be like a Cyberpunk 2077. But the beta, I think, did a lot to quell some of those fears.
Hello.
Hello. Oh, did I get cut
Sorry,
out?
Welcome back.
your
No,
take
no, no,
was
not you.
Wait, what
yeah,
happened?
my PC blue screen.
Oh
I was
shit!
gone for a minute. Your
Well,
take on the health bar was too hot. It made my
yeah.
PC explode.
Um, yeah, I yapped for a bit. I didn't. I was talking about the like the UI sound effects for a bit too, and like they sound pretty
Oh yeah.
crunchy, which I like. They're not old Monster Hunter, but um, they're is close enough for me. And it's like I don't really want old Monster Hunter to come back. I don't expect that to happen as much as I just want to. I want it to feel. I want it to give me the same feelings, or at least similar feelings to old Monster Hunter, and that's why Wilds, for me, is like more than enough because
Yeah, I mean,
yeah,
I feel like for me, the thing that I love most about older Monhun games is not necessarily even like the mechanics and stuff. It's just the feel of the game, like
yeah,
the atmosphere stuff, like you were saying before. Like Wilds really captures the atmosphere aspect of it, I think, which makes it
absolutely,
so like appealing because it's definitely not like mechanically like the old games that much, but I mean, in some ways, it does seem like they're taking some inspiration
right,
mechanically in some ways, but like definitely it's taking after World more than like Dose or something.
yeah, yeah.
But
From a gameplay perspective,
the atmosphere is just excellent.
mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think a good example of that is seasons because it's like the season system has a completely different function in the gameplay,
Yeah.
than it does in Dose. It doesn't really seem to change the gathering spots. I know a lot of people thought it would beforehand because it looked like it in the trailer, but it
There
was
there are some items that don't appear though during certain times.
like what? I didn't notice.
So I was
I just
looking
didn't have the time.
for, and I mean, I guess it could also be just the nature of playing in an instance, and maybe things were despawning. But I was looking for resupplying on. So there's two gathering points for trank bombs. Um, But while doing that, I was looking for flash bombs.
Like
Because I had
flash
to
bugs.
restock for the Huns. Yeah, and they don't, or they didn't seem like they were always available for some reason.
Hmm.
Even though they were marked on the map as being available, which is weird.
Interesting.
So again, I can't say confidently that that time doesn't have an impact, but again, it might not be weather related. I
Hmm.
also didn't see the great thunderbugs out all
Yeah,
the time,
those
which
change.
was
Yes, the endemic life or the environmental creatures, as they're called in Japanese. I hate the name endemic life in English because it's like it implies the monsters aren't endemic, which is like makes no
Yeah.
sense. But anyways, they that changes by season for sure. I also noticed that for the Great Thunderbug description, they removed all references to it being created by an Elder Dragon and said it was created by, I think, the
Oh.
Storm. So that there's two angles to take there, which is that they either are trying to make sure people don't think Yamasukami is in the game because of that, or Alpha, your prediction was correct, and the if Yamatsukami is in the game, the ones that it has will actually do damage, and I suspect those ones might have a different endemic life description.
yeah, it'd be interesting to see what they do with it for sure.
I liked your idea. It was Alpha
Yeah, it'd
last
be
time.
cool if it like plays on the comfort the player has
Yeah.
in particular, where you're surrounded by this endemic life that's always positive to you, for you. And it's in a similar way to like the Zenogre cutscene where the hunter looks at a bug that looks like the scout flies, but it's a Fulgur bug, um, controlled by Zenogre. Like I want an instance where the player's comfortable around something and then you encounter a creature that subverts that comfort.
Yeah.
I think the Great Thunderbugs would be a great example of a way that they could do it. But it depends on how that was executed and how they implement Yama.
I was worried for a long time that the environment would be too helpful for you, and while there's definitely a lot more helpful that's not. Like there's was one time where I walked into like a thorn bush, right? And I was fully expecting to be like, oh wow, you can just walk into this really thorny bush and like be totally fine and like be mildly disappointed with the game. But then I walked in and it was like actually damaging me for
Yeah.
standing in it, and I was like, I got surprisingly excited about that. But like little things like adding the fire on the ground, which like doesn't damage you a lot, but it damages you enough that it could matter.
Yeah, I also love that shelling and charge blade
Yeah,
files cause
yeah,
fire and that you indirectly hurt people. It's great.
yeah. So and the fact that it's different depending on what you stand on, so you actually can think about that. You actually might think like, oh, I'm standing in a giant, you know, dry field. I'm gonna, not use my fire weapon right now, so I'll put that back on my sacred, and I'll use my water weapon until we go back to the sand dunes or something like that. Like I love shit like that. That just adds a little bit extra engagement. Um, that shit I fucking love that, dude.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what they do with the other. So, like, obviously, it seems like whatever the other maps are, they'll have different states that they go into. I just hope
Yeah,
that the states have more going on with them than just a visual change.
I
Um,
mean, I'm kind of expecting that to be the case for some of the later zones, like the Scarlet Forest, the like downpour, where the whole place like floods.
that's
Like
awesome.
if that doesn't change things, I'd be really shocked.
And we already know it changes things because in the footage, they show that like in the Scarlet Forest stream they showed that the downpour makes the river actually like run and have a current. So you actually,
Hmm.
if you stand in the water, you actually have to move against the current if you don't want to be pushed down by it. And that's not the case normally because when they're fighting Uthdana or whatever you pronounce it in the stream, um, it stops doing that when the downpour ends, and that matters a lot since you can only fight it at least at first during the downpour. And I don't know how hard it will be to lure it out of the water. Um, but yeah, I saw a lot of people complaining about how quickly the monsters run away, specifically Ray Dow.
I never
And
noticed it.
yeah, and I thought that it was not a stupid complaint, but the entire time I was like, oh, just use a luring pod. And then so when I played it, because this was like before when it was PlayStation that I heard people complaining about it. So when I finally got my hands on the beta and then I tried to use a luring pod, I missed all 3 times. So I still don't know if
No,
the
no,
luring pod
I
stops
can
running
answer
away.
that. Yeah, I can answer that question for you because when we were doing the naked runs, one of the things we were attempting to do was kill Ray Dow in the same area. Um, so we were preventing it from leaving. You can do it 4 different ways. The luring pod will work until it starts limping or until it says it's ineffective. Um, the flash pods start off being effective, but obviously once it gets unflashed, like once it stops being dazed, it'll attempt to leave again. Um, if you enrage it, obviously it's gonna stay. And then traps like pitfalls and shocks
Mm-hmm.
are another interrupt. So you can keep it in the area. It's possible. It takes a lot of work. Um, I don't know. It seems like they're expanding with the what is it called? The swarms of monsters. The what do you call them?
The
Um,
herds.
yeah, like the when you have multiple of them, like it seems like the dung pod is meant to be like the anti-lure pod, and the lure pod is supposed to be like, hey, you want to specifically pull one from the group. I wonder how many crowd control options you'll have in general, and how prevalent multiple monsters are going to be on some of the other maps.
Yeah. Yeah, there's definitely some things where it's like, there's some interesting interactions with things like the lure pods and the dung pods and the flash pods, but at the same time, when we know that they're not really going to be that hard to get, it's like how interesting is that going to remain? Because it's like, is it going to
Yeah.
be something where it's like it's interesting when you don't know what to do, but then the moment you figure it out, it's easy. Because it's like in a game like Dose, a lot of the time those interactions remain interesting by virtue of the fact that some of the items, take a little more effort to get. Like you have to think like, oh, where do I get the flash bugs, and
Well,
how
that and they don't
seasons
work
work
on
and
every
stuff.
single encounter. Like if you take Kezu for example, you
Yeah,
can't flash it, and
yeah,
that's
Yeah.
lore wise, it's in line.
right.
Um, and dung pods are just weird in second gen, but like if you take third gen, they have certain mechanics to them.
Yeah.
Um,
It is funny that the large dung pod is
I'm
basically equivalent to the dung bombs in Dose, though, and in first gen. At
yeah,
least not in terms of
that
use, but like it being a cloud, it's just kind of fun.
I'm just hoping that there's depth to those interactions, both from the monsters themselves and from the environment. Like if a monster is submerged in water and you try to dung pot it, does it just wash itself off?
Mm.
You
Right.
know,
Yeah, that'd be
we
awesome.
know, like Blanganga will shake
Yeah.
the
Oh yeah.
paintball off. You
Does
know,
he still do that in fourth gen,
um,
like in Generations and Generations Ultimate?
yeah, yeah, he'll
Cool.
still do that.
Hell yeah. Are there
I
any
don't
other
know if
monsters that
the
do that?
I mean, if you exclude Fatalis just being straight up immune, no.
I always forget about that because it's like, why would you try to paintball Fatalis?
Well,
Just
Uh,
what's
so you
even
know where
weirder
he's
is he
at.
does have he does have an icon because you can see it with either the balloon or Psycho Serum or what's the skill?
You don't
detect
want
or
to lose
whatever.
track of that guy.
Yeah, auto tracker. It'd be a
Shout out
shame.
shout out to paintballs being back, by the way. Whew.
Yeah, what do they do? I never. I
Uh
used them and I.
it's it's a ping system in multiplayer. It'll ping the monster. and you can it allows your group to track it, and like it basically sets it as like a waypoint for the whole group.
Oh, interesting. Weird.
Yeah, it was actually handy
Huh.
because because it would be like with me and my friends, we'd just be killing the stuff that was on the map, and we'd be and then someone would be like, oh, let's go fight this monster, and you could just go over there and paintball it, and then everyone would know, okay, let's go that way, right?
Right.
Instead of being like, okay,
Interesting.
this Balahara on the map, it's like a 2-star, it's over in like the northeast.
Yeah.
So that's the one thing I did miss. That I don't know if you got a chance to mess around with Moze. How different were the monsters when they were different star tiers?
um, it felt not like it wasn't like you know this monster is twice as strong now as if it was like a base star one, but it definitely
Sure.
felt noticeable. Like there was like it felt like there was a noticeable increase in how long the monster was taking to kill and how much damage it was dealing. It's not drastic, but there is something there for sure.
Yeah, I was curious because I didn't get a chance to mess around with it, but I did know that it was in the game.
Yeah.
I did hear some people talking about it.
I think it was perhaps a bit undercooked, mostly because of the beta. Like,
Yeah.
it obviously was not a mechanic
Yeah.
that was explained at all, so you kind of just had to like feel it out.
Yeah. And also in the
And
Did
beta,
either of you have tutorial messages on?
I
for the
turned
beta?
on
I didn't have
some,
them on.
yeah,
No.
Okay.
because it didn't let you.
I was just
turn 'em
curious
off
what
entirely. It was-
specifically they said,
Yeah, that's a good
if
point.
anything.
But they, um, yeah, with the beta, it's hard also because like you can't. Everyone's going to be using like the same small amount of equipment, and everyone's going to be using the base hope weapons. I assume they had completely different stats than they might in the actual beginning of the game because it's like I assume you're not going to be able to kill a Ray Dow at the start of the game with the starter weapon, and it's like they historically have changed the balance of a lot of things like that. Like just look at Magnum Hollow and the Rise demo.
Yeah.
But so I do imagine that something like the HP of the monsters based on their strength level is something that would probably have to change. That's something that I thought was originally a DOS feature, but then Adam told me that that's also in Monster Hunter G and potentially the PSP games.
They are, yeah, it's in the PSP
Yeah,
games.
so I guess it's
It impacts
try when they
speedruns pretty PSP games.
yeah. So I guess it's try when they change it to just be the HP that like scales and not also the attack and defense.
I'm honestly just
Well,
really
it's
curious.
weird because investigations in World can have different tiers of stats. I know it's not the exact same thing, but they can generate
Yeah.
monsters with both more attack and defense and HP. Although that is outside like the standard pool of quests in play.
Yeah, it's
And I wonder if the what is it called? Um how the indicators for the star levels work in general in
yeah.
Wilds will be interesting to see the systems behind it.
Yeah, there's a lot of things that I think a lot of people are just forgetting that it's a beta, but also at the same time, people are forgetting that the way betas work, this is like a very old fork of the game and not,
Yeah.
like a lot of the things that people are complaining about, I think, are things that would be very valid to complain about in the full game. It's like come on, dude, it's a beta. Like, I don't know. I saw someone said, wow, Capcom released the worst performing game of 2024. And it was like the funniest thing
Wow.
because I'm like, it's not even a game from 2024. It's coming out next year. And it's like, they didn't release it either. It's like, what does that
I
even
think
mean?
do you remember from our last podcast when I said one of my concerns was people are going to assume that the full game is going to be what the beta is?
Yeah, that's, I think
You
I
know,
remember that. Yeah.
I was really worried about the performance end of things. I mean,
Yeah, I don't think they optimized this for PC at all. I think they just did not do any form of optimization at all. So it was just like a complete shit show, basically.
It doesn't feel all that different because I was looking at the footage from like the demos that they were showing with the creators, and it really doesn't seem all that different from the builds the creators were using.
Yeah,
Obviously, they were on. I'm assuming they were all on console.
yeah. They said
Um,
that all of the convention stuff was all on PS5s.
yeah, so at least you're able to when you have standardized hardware like that, you're able to create a build with the expectation that the hardware is going to be that level. And then when you release a very similar build for wildly different hardware, you're going to get some really interesting results,
Yeah, I'm
which
How did
just
unfortunately
how
dominates
did
the conversation online.
how did it run for you guys on PC?
for me it ran fine. It was I mean it I tried frame gen at first since I have an AMD GPU, the frame gen was absolutely terrible. So I turned it off. But other than that, it ran totally fine. I didn't have an overlay up when I was playing, so I don't know the average FPS. But um, my AMD software afterwards was telling me it ran at. I mean, I only have a 1080p monitor, so I wasn't at like 1440 or 4K or anything. But I started at ultra settings and it ran pretty good. But I turned it down to high just for a little bit extra stability. And yeah, for me it ran pretty well. There was definitely a lot of like bugs, particularly a lot of the textures seemed pretty I keep seeing people call them muddy, but for me there was just a couple times where the textures just didn't seem
The
high
level
res
of
enough.
detail
Yeah.
tends, yeah, they'll drop occasionally.
Yeah.
It'll do it for my PC now, so I had to upgrade my. I ended up upgrading my graphics card. I shouldn't say I had to. Because I wasn't, I recorded a really high bit rate, and that eats up like a lot of resources, and I was not able to do that and play the game at a consistent frame pace.
Yeah.
But after upgrading it, it worked fine. Um, but again, that's on a more expensive PC end. Like if you were just playing the game casually, I'm pretty certain you could get away with medium and high graphics with most middle of the road GPUs.
Yeah.
Um, the problem is if you're expecting like the same graphical settings that like you'd be able to put on World, like it's not going to be the same.
Well, I
And I
mean
think
that's
that
obvious. It's just such a newer game. It's like if you're
well,
trying
yeah,
to,
it's not going to be well that and people really misremember World because I don't know if you got to play the beta of World, but
Nah.
World ran like hot garbage.
Yeah, I've heard about
Um,
that.
and honestly, I was impressed with because everything's new in Wilds. I was impressed with how consistently certain things worked for such an early build of the game. Um, because there were times where it would drop. I want to say to like 2015 FPS in World's beta. Um, and that was running it on a console. You know that should have been able to run it like that. That was a PlayStation.
Yeah.
Um,
Oh, dude, and remember I didn't have a PS4 Pro, but the loading times like between the base hub and the gathering hall were so fucking bad on PS4 in World. It's like at least for my PS4, it took like felt like 3 minutes every single time. It probably wasn't actually that long, but like I never did like went to the gathering hall in multiplayer in World because of that in Astera.
Yeah, I've heard stories of World on base PS4.
Yeah, it was not fun. But yeah, I'm really hyped for this game to come out. I pre-ordered it. I explicitly banned myself from pre-ordering it before the beta. And now that I played it, I pre-ordered it, and I even uh went full sheeple mode and got the premium deluxe version because I was just too excited. Which
Random people online are going to be very mad about that.
yeah, I know, I know. I'm not, and it's like I'm not super happy about like those sorts of DLC things, but I was just kind of like I was so excited for the game that I was like, you know what? fuck it, you guys deserve it. It's like when when they did the flagship reveal. I went to the website afterwards and I gave them all of my cookies. I was like, you know what, you guys deserve this shit. You guys can be shitty.
Did you guys get to see the memorial part of the website out of curiosity?
Oh, the 20th anniversary.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was super cute.
Yeah, it's cute. And I like that they went with the the Japanese release dates and for the logos. Like,
Oh yeah,
it's clearly
and the
just a
logo's the
translation
same.
of
Yeah.
It's clearly just a translation of the Japanese, which is like some people would say makes it shittier, but I think when you're talking about the history of Monster Hunter, I just think it makes it so much easier. It makes a lot more sense. Like little things like how the the Wii U version of Tri-G is like marketed as like an HD version and not it's just like the game. Whereas here in the West, like people think of 3 Ultimate as a 3DS game and a Wii U game, not as a 3DS game that got ported to Wii U. And um so like the Wii U version of 3 Ultimate has a lot of problems and runs uh interestingly, shall we say. And I think a lot of those um sort of issues make a lot more sense in the context of it being a port of a 3DS game and not a dual release game that released on both consoles at the same time like it did here in the West, because in Japan the Wii U version was like almost like a year afterwards or something like that. I don't remember. But long enough later for it to clearly not be, you know.
Yeah, there was a huge gap
Yeah,
for
yeah.
the US
Probably
players,
a longer gap than
especially
there was
after
between
Try.
DOS and Portable. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, so do we feel like we have much more to say about the beta? Because I feel like we could probably keep this episode a little shorter.
Wilds is so fucking cool.
I know, I'm so hyped. I'm so hyped. And it's just, you know what, before we go, like little things like there being a friends list again. And I know that only exists because of crossplay, but it's like that enough is like, will make me feel so much more engaged in like being crossplay. It's like the first time there's going to be an actual Monster Hunter community since the time that Monster Hunter was not on multiple platforms. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like with World and Rise, you had like a World PS4 community and then a World PC community, and then like the first time in forever that everyone will be having the same experience, basically. Not literally the same experience, because, you know, people are going to have different rigs that'll have different
Yeah, some
bugs
people
and
are
shit
going to
like
see
that,
polygons. You know?
Yeah, dude, that shit was
But-
so funny.
that dude, that's probably my favorite bug from the beta. Is the when it doesn't switch the LOD models. Anyways, thank you, Moze, for joining us. It's been a blast.
Yeah, I had fun.
Everyone go check out their videos. They're very good. And watch their streams.
Maybe I should do that.
Yeah, you should. I'm mad at you. I will be blocking you immediately afterwards. Moze is the new permanent guest of the Kokotocast. You're gone. Yeah,
Bye.
I hope you don't mind me volunteering you, Moze.
Nah, it's okay.
All right. Well, thank you all for listening. And
When do I get paid? That was in the contract, right?